Hello and welcome to Two Trees Gaming. We've got some huge news for you today. We've had a look at Aragorn's profile. Some new rules have been officially announced and revealed today. One of the biggest Middle-earth pre-orders ever is going live on Saturday. And I was in London the other week at the Leicester Square IMAX and I got to watch the new War of the Rohirrim film. But don't panic, I'm not going to spoil anything. In fact, it's under embargo at the moment, but this is me letting you know as soon as I can talk about it, I will talk about it. Let's get cracking. The article today begins by talking about the reworked profiles, and I think some of our old favourites are going to be getting an update. This is what they say. Many of the original characters lack the kind of special rules that more modern releases gained. And so we've taken this opportunity to give such characters their own special rules to help them better reflect how they appear on screen. Fight value and shoot value are now split. Courage is represented as a target number. It's still a 2d6 test, but now you simply have to roll and match that to your target. That's a welcome change, and one of those changes that we'll definitely look back on and be like, why did we have to randomly hit a 10? Some arbitrary number. It doesn't make sense. Now it's written out exactly what you need. No maths required. Love it. There's also a new characteristic marked with an I. This is intelligence, and there's little hints about what that's going to do a little later on in the video. They've also spread out keywords into groups, which is just going to make them much easier to digest, especially if you're new to the game. The profile we're looking at here is Aragorn's. It's very familiar, but some things have changed. He's got a bump to fight value 7. This is part of fight values being spread more to decrease the amount of congestion in the 3 to 6 range, and I don't think anybody's going to argue with Aragorn getting a fight value bump. I do wonder what other fight values have changed. There's one more in this video confirmed, but it's heroes like Glorfindel. Is he going to go up? Will Bolg maybe go down? Up in the air at the moment. You'll notice his equipment has changed a bit as well. He's got the Ring of Barra here, which is baked into his profile. That lets him roll a d6 after failing to resist a magical power. On the roll of a 6, he's not affected by the magical power. And you may have noticed, he's also got resistant to magic. So no more just transfixing Aragorn out of the game. He's also got Brago as an option. That's his horse. And he's got his own little special rule. If Aragorn should be knocked prone while riding Brago, roll the dice. On the roll of a 6, he's not actually knocked prone and can stay mounted on Brago. That's really good. It says that he can use his might for that as well, and that's the kind of thing I would definitely be using my might points for. They've promised that there's going to be a few more named mounts coming to the game as well, so I'm looking forward to profiles for Snowmane, Hera's horse from the War of the Rohirrim film, maybe Legolas's horse or Éomer's horse, and of course we've got the White Wag and Shadowfax, although I am hoping the White Wag might lose 2 points of might and Shadowfax maybe gain a point of might. That could be quite interesting. Although obviously the first horse mentioned when I mentioned this in our Two Trees Gaming chat was Feraloth, which is Earl the Young's horse. So sorry Louis, he might well be in Legacy, but we're not going to be using him in loads. And the last note on Brago is that he's 20 points, and it seems like that's going to be the going rate for horses going forward. If that is the case, I'm very happy with that change. At the moment, they're an auto-include, and maybe one still is, but if you've got 2 or 3 mounted heroes, that could be 40 or 60 points. All of a sudden, you could have a portion of a battle line there, and maybe having a hero on foot becomes a much more viable option. Certainly something to at least consider, which I'm a big fan of. We're going to take a look at a new warrior profile in just a second, but first I thought I'd mention to patrons that in our next Patreon exclusive video, I'll do a little raffle, and one of you will win the War of the Rohirrim visual guide. So keep your eyes on that, make sure you watch the next Patreon exclusive video, and if you are interested, please do sign up to the Patreon. This is the first giveaway. It's not exactly a regular thing, but it supports the channel. Please consider it. So Warriors of Minas Tirith are being bumped up a point and a fight value. They're now fight value of 4. It makes me wonder what might happen to Citadel Guard and Fountain Court. My initial reaction was that Citadel Guard might stay at fight 4 and then they have the longbow option, and that differentiates them from elves a bit, and then maybe Fountain Court go up to fight 5, higher defense, and then you've got like 3 different profiles there. But I could see both of them going up, both of them staying where they are, and there could be all kinds of new special rules. So Who knows, but very intrigued to see what happens to the Minas Tirith battle line, if nothing else. I can't see Orcs and Uruk-hai warriors moving up from their base fight values of 3 and 4 as it is at the moment. So the main beneficiaries here of the Minas Tirith warriors going up to fight 4 might actually be Knights of Gondor. You might find that Knights of Minas Tirith is a much more valuable option, or much more viable option in the new edition of the game. And speaking of Knights, if you've been watching these news videos, you'll know I've been working on my Throne of Schools display. That's pretty much finished now, and it's Throne of Schools in a couple of days. Very excited for that. Right, the fight value buff though isn't the standout piece of information here. It's the way that equipment is now bought. I'm going to read it straight from the article. Perhaps the main thing to point out here is the way that warriors now select their war gear. The list of war gear options is presented similarly to previous editions, but a warrior may now only select a single option from the list at a given points cost. Some warriors may choose not to take any options, while others, like the Minas Tirith warrior, must select an option from the list provided. This has been done to ensure all models accurately represent the war gear they may carry, and so there's no confusion mid-game. When a player looks at a model, they should be able to tell exactly what war gear that model has. This is almost definitely confirmation that the only war gear available to models will be the stuff that is sculpted on them or available as options on that sprue. On the one hand, it's good news. It means you can buy your box, you know exactly what you've got. It's all potentially going to be available off the shelf. It's going to be easier for new players approaching the game. There's less converting needed, or maybe even searching out third-party stuff. And it's going to stop some of that jankiness of having a spear, a shield and a banner that always felt a little bit silly, but it's going to throw up its own silliness. Orcs, for example, the spearmen, I'm presuming, won't be able to take shields now, as there's no loose shields on the sprue, so you're going to have the orc using its spear with 2 hands, whereas a Morannon can do it with 1. Or a more extreme example would be a Ranger of Gondor can probably take a bow and a spear, where a Wood Elf bowman won't be able to take a spear because it's not in the set. Going to be a little strange. I think it's something we'll just get used to. It kind of exists in the game already. Goblin Town, they shoot bows in the film, but there's no bow option for them. There's no banner option for them either. There's no spears in Khazad-dûm, when dwarves would obviously be able to use spears, and we just accept that as a gameplay mechanic. The biggest one that I think would be hit just off the cuff now would be Rivendell Elves. Their swordsmen or their front rank is going to lose their shields, but they'll be being supported by elves with spears and shields. I'm hoping that means they're going to get some kind of legendary legion, where maybe if the front rank is charged, they can do what they do at the opening scene of the Fellowship and get +1 to wound. And that would play nicely into the new priority mechanic that I'll be talking about in just a second. The other one that springs to mind would maybe be Orc Captains. I don't think there's an Orc Captain on a WAG profile, and on foot they're just so much worse, but ultimately that's all just gamey stuff. It's fine, I can deal with it game-wise. If they're going to change the profiles, we'll just find what works for us, and if it's going to be more thematic on the whole, that's great, but I don't want to lose like Sharku's Legendary Legion because there's now no Orc Captain model. So interested to see how this one plays out. I'm on the fence with it. All the other changes, very much on board with, including this next one, which is probably their biggest change. Well, in the article, they say it's the biggest change. Previously, whoever won the priority role automatically had priority that turn, but winning that role sometimes felt like losing, as going first could be detrimental to your plans. Now, if you win the priority role, you may choose to take priority or give it to your opponent. This is a massive change, and I'm so here for it. So often you used to win priority and you really didn't want it. I'm assuming that if you give priority to the opponent, they're going to get to split the fights and things like that, and you're going to end up having to call your heroics first. So it is going to be a bit of a difficult choice, but ultimately it's going to speed up the game, I think. Yes, there's another decision to make, but previously if I was cavalry, I was charging you anyway. I was just going to have to wait until eventually I lost priority and then charge in. So hopefully it's going to speed it up a little bit, add a little bit of tacticalness to the game, and then maybe spring up a few special rules, like Snarger used to be able to move out of order. Maybe there'll be other characters with rules like that. I'm very excited for it and very intrigued to have a go with this and see how it affects the game. But more tactical choices is all good by me. I forgot to mention intelligence when we were going through the characteristics just a second ago. They said it's going to be a test to pass in the same way that courage is, but it's going to be used for different things. And the example they gave was finding an invisible ring bearer or for knowing where to hurl a model. That to me is interesting. What happens if you fail that roll? If you're I like the idea that if Smaug is throwing somebody, he knows what he's aiming for and he might try and lob Ori into Thorin, whereas a cave troll is just picking something up and lobbing it around. But if you fail that, is the opponent picking where to throw it? Does it not get thrown? Does it get thrown directly up into the air or in a random direction? I love the idea of it. Very interested to see how it plays out. And in terms of finding invisible ring bearers, I noticed that Brago is actually cleverer and braver than a warrior of Minas Tirith. Boromir is very bad at finding Frodo when Frodo is invisible and has kicked him at Amon Hen. Does that mean Boromir is going to have low intelligence? And if it's so low, is it going to be lower than Brago's? I'm looking forward to the memes when all the intelligence stats come out. I can't wait to just log onto Facebook that day and just scroll through the GBHL. There's a few other little things before the big pre-order. They say they've cleared up the rules for chariots and war beasts. They've got their own section and more clarification now, which I'm all here for. And more excuses to use models like that is great by me. They are something I avoid for tournaments just because they're a little bit finicky. So if there's more black and white rules, that'd be great. They've also updated the match play scenarios. They're now scored out of 20 instead of 12. And I'm very much here for that change if it just means maybe they've got more points that they can weight toward the middle. If it's 10 points for the main objective, getting the most kills, having the most models here, and then a smattering of other things, that's fine by me. What I don't want is 10 different things to have to focus on when I'm thinking about all the special rules and where my models need to be. Just keep it simple, keep it focused, but Jay, the rules writer, knows the game, and I've no doubt that he'll know exactly what he's doing when it comes to match play. There's going to be 6 new match play scenarios in the new rulebook, and I assume that means that there's going to be a new match play guide coming soon. We need to get that up to 18 as soon as possible. That was the right amount. I was just starting to feel like I played through them enough and was ready for some new ones. So hopefully they're different enough from the old ones and not just reworks. Obviously there's going to be a take the middle and get the most kills, but I'm very intrigued to see like what new stuff they do, and some of the later ones like destroy the supplies and Fog of War, I can't remember, are some of the better ones. So very excited to see what they do with that. The last thing they touched on in the article today was a brand new special rule called Dominant X. And as I say that out loud now, I realise that sounds a bit weird, but Dominant X is the new special rule. And basically, it means that a model with the dominant special rule counts as the X many models when working out who controls objectives and other similar things. It's a great little addition. It means armies like Eagles and Ents might be more viable now. If you've got Smaug, he might have dominant 7. So if he's on an objective, he's going to count as 7 models. An Eagle might count as 2 or 3. So hopefully these all hero armies or the less model count armies are going to be much more viable going forward, and I'm sure Hordes will have their own special thing as well. That's all the news from today's article, but it's not the biggest news of the week, because one of the biggest pre-orders in Middle-earth strategy battle game history is going live on Saturday. It's 14 new things, although some of it is repackaging, but it's 14 products, and I can't wait to order some of it. Although I think my wife is going to be a little less excited than I am. Firstly, the new starter sets here, that's 56 plastic models, which is Helm's Sons, Hammer and Haleth, foot and mounted. Wolf and General Tag on the Forces of Evil, also foot and mounted. 24 new plastic Warriors of Rohan, 24 Wild Men of Dunland, some dice, tape measures, some beginner scenarios, and the main rulebook. And if you're not interested in that starter set, it is a new edition of the game. You're probably going to want to pick up the rulebook anyway. That will be available separately. as will the Warriors of Rohan and Men of Dunland if you don't like the look of the heroes. There'll be Helm Hammerhand, Wraith of the Hornburg, who's going to be a hero of legend, and that is a profile I'm very intrigued to see. Freka, who will be a hero of valour in the Usurpers of Edoras army, and Lord Thorn of the Wold, who we already know will be leading treacherous Rohirrim. The eagles are being repackaged, and we're getting a new type of eagle in the game as well now, fledgling eagles. I assume these are going to be one less fight value and one less defense, and maybe 20 points less than a regular eagle. And what that's going to do is allow tournament players to hit different points values. At the moment, if it was a 700 point tournament, you'd have to play 50 points down if you wanted pure eagles. The fledglings will hopefully alleviate that problem. Do you remember Berda and the Hill Trolls? Yeah, it was a long time ago. Well, they exist. They're coming out and you can pre-order them this Saturday. I love these models. They're not going to be featured in any of the new army books, but they are going to have a free PDF available to download with all of their rules in. It's not ideal, but they were very open about this from the start, so fair play. Lastly, some Gondor terrain has been bundled together, and it's going to be pricey, but it really is a fantastic kit, and I can vouch for it firsthand because I've literally been doing it this week, and honestly, I really, really love it. I don't think I need a new full set of all of it, but if I had the money, I definitely would be getting that, and I'd be building an Osgiliath board as my next board. I'd love that. All of those pre-orders will be live at 10 AM this Saturday for release on the 14th of December. So it's a 2-week pre-order, so you've got plenty of time to get your orders in. But the Forge World stuff in particular may go out of stock very, very quickly. The starter set I can't speak for, but if you know you want it, I would recommend ordering it soon, or letting a loved one know, whoever's going to be buying it for you for Christmas, that maybe they need to be logging on to Games Workshop at 10 AM on Saturday. I know that myself and Aaron, Louis and Leon are all going to be at Throne of Schools, with probably 100 other people all ordering the same thing. If the website doesn't crash and the internet works there, I'm going to be very impressed. I've missed the most important thing, the army books. Obviously, the army books are going to be up for pre-order this Saturday as well, also releasing on the 14th of December. I can't be the only one who theorizes about an imaginary army that I don't yet have the models for every night before I go to sleep. I've been struggling to sleep because I haven't been able to fill my head with planning make-believe armies. I can't wait to get back on it. Apparently there's 150 profiles in the Armies of the Lord of the Rings and War of the Rohirrim book. They're bunched together. And there's 120 profiles in the Armies of the Hobbit book. I would expect a little crossover. The Eagles and Rivendell might be in both, but they'll be largely separate. And apparently there's 27 good armies and 19 evil armies in the Armies of the Lord of the Rings book, and 15 good armies and 7 evil armies in the Armies of the Hobbit book. The two things I just really want to know now are, how is army building going to work? At the moment in my head it's just pure legendary legions, but I think we might get a little bit more flexibility than that. But then there are an awful lot of army lists, so maybe not. Because bearing in mind that things like Cand and Far Harrod have been removed from it, yet there's still a similar number of armies. So maybe something like the Last Alliance is replacing that. Who knows? And then the other thing is, what board size are we going to be playing on? We haven't had any official confirmation yet, but I'm assuming it's 4x4. But it has stopped me building boards just for a little while until I know for definite. I know I've been rambling for a little while now, but there is one last thing worth mentioning before I sign off, and that's that myself and Louis got invited down to the IMAX in Leicester Square last week to watch the War of the Rohirrim. Thanks to our real life jobs. Nothing to do with the channel, we are not that big yet. But honestly, the experience was excellent. I'm not allowed to talk about the film at all. We did film a little reaction video as soon as we came out. We had a little walk around Leicester Square and just talked about our thoughts and how we think it'll affect the game and that kind of thing. But it's under embargo at the moment. As soon as we can release that, we will release that. And that's all there is to say for now. Don't forget to head to the Baron of Dice. If you're getting the new edition, you're probably going to want new dice to go with that, and there's nowhere better to get them from than the Baron of Dice. And please consider supporting our Patreon. It goes an awful long way. These fine folks are keeping the channel going, and it means so much to us, and we're looking forward to bumping into a few of them at Throne of Schools. We'll see you there.